Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Quick Draw with me, your host, Mike. Tonight we have a very special guest, Rosemary Dewar, or as I like to say, Dewar, like the band, sort of.
What's up, Dewar?
Also with me is my co-host tonight. We're going to change his name because he is the reason we're running a little bit late today. So from now on, for the rest of the show, he shall be known as Not Gay John.
Yep. It's weird because you now no longer can call me your heterosexual life partner. So how's that going to work now?
Climbed up the total.
I'll manage.
We'll figure it out.
So happy belated birthday to Rosemary, and thanks for coming on to the show. We had some interesting topics for tonight, especially apparently feminists are freaking out over Jordan Peterson, but what else is new?
I think that's the default setting at this point.
It's funny. I never heard of Jordan Peterson prior to like Twitter freakouts over him. And then there was this one feminist that I followed. I can't even remember her name because I got so fed up with her that I unfollowed her. I was just like, okay, you are like troll levels of insane. I can't tell if you're serious or not, but you say you are, so this isn't going to work. And so I stopped following her, but she's actually the person that like exposed me to Jordan Peterson, and I was just like, and she would freak out about his misogyny and his sexism and his violent sex, and she's like, I'd be like, really, this guy sounds really bad. Do you have any clips? Can I like listen to it? Like what's going on here? So she shares with me this link, and I'm like, is that it?
So
is that all? That's violent sexism? It was like, this is benign. This is harmless. Like, I was expecting him to say, like, yeah,
So to sound like a MGTOW, basically.
I was expecting MGTOW at the least. Or I don't know, caveman. Like, we should go back to the days where you can club a woman on the head and drag her back to your pad or something.
I'm sorry, because apparently I forget these things. But what is, Rosemary, what's your background?
It's like I kind of commentate on the side. I contribute to Red Alert Politics when something just kind of it's my goat a little bit, and yeah.
Which there's plenty of that to go around thanks to the left.
Yeah, it's become a reoccurring theme. But yeah, got really interested into politics during Obama's second administration, and just been kind of watching it as a spectator since. Okay. And yeah.
Well, I was going to say, because I know that feminism is such an odd topic these days, because first of all, you have to spend like 3/4 of your time just trying to pin down what the damn term means. And it's like, it's because they'll keep, it's like with socialism, everywhere, we're socialists. No, they're not really socialists. No, don't pay attention to them,
Yeah.
Now it's this person over here says they're a feminist. Yeah, but they're saying something embarrassing, so it's not real feminist. It's like,
now, have you guys ever interacted with like TERFs before?
Oh,
no.
Yeah.
Right. Are you familiar with TERFs at all, Rosemary?
I'm not.
So it stands for Trans Exclusion Radical Feminists. So these are feminists. This is it's like the funniest thing ever. These are feminists who take what we consider conservative view, like that trans women are men biologically. They are biologically men, and therefore they don't get to participate in the feminist movement. Like that's they actually view trans women trying to participate in feminism or trying to like get the benefits of feminism as women as kind of a male incursion. And it's hilarious because they go at each other like cats and dogs. Like they hate each other. It's or
in this case, cats and cats, really.
Well, yeah, but it's funny. No, it's interesting because on the one hand, I kind of want to side with the TERFs because I agree with the whole biology thing, because science, and on the other hand, sometimes they're crazier than actual feminists. Like it feels like it feels like they're sane on the science side, but then when it comes to like the whole male oppression thing, like the patriarchy, like they crank that shit up to 11. Like it's like, whoa, wow, okay, you actually think like the patriarchy is a reified thing? Okay.
I like to say the TERFs are basically just feminists who have figured out that the obvious flaw in the logic of transgenderism. That have figured out that if you say if you're fighting for women's rights, but you can't pin down the definition of what a woman is, you may have a bit of a fatal flaw in your movement.
Oh, absolutely. No, you can't. Like you can't. Even when it comes to the workplace now and trying to cater to women, you can't say men and women are the same and say that companies are not catering well enough to women, especially if they want to work from home because they want a family. You can't say it doesn't work.
I wish I could work from home, man. That would be nice.
Yeah. I'd like to think anybody basically can if you pick the right field, but like.
My job won't let me. I could work. I could physically work from home if I wanted to. My job's like, no, we don't. We don't want you to work from home.
No. But the whole point is like, we need you guys doing construction, and we need you guys building buildings and creating new technology because that's what you guys are good at. And a small percentage of women are good at that. But
right.
It's like,
why are you so sexist, Rosemary? It's not nice.
I am incredibly internally misogynist. So much.
Right, of course.
So.
Sort of like I'm a white and black guy, so I get the idea. I'm
just more woke than all you guys. I think. Wasn't
it Root that came out with an article that actually said that straight black men are the white people of the black people?
Yeah.
Was that Root? I saw that article. I don't remember if it was Root or not.
Yes, I think it was. It was the Root thing that So apparently I'm a white guy by comparison, I guess. So that's how that works.
I mean, it completely blows up their victim totem pole completely. But because
there's a nesting scheme.
Well, this is one of the things that I was kind of talking about when I got connected with you guys. I keep feeling like the equality game just keeps splitting the baby over and over and over again.
Right. Like, and now we'll split down to 256. And it's like
the 77 cents on a dollar is not enough. It's like once that average is made equal between men and women, then you'll start seeing leftist women saying, well, we need to be making the same amount of money as white women. And then you're going to see the Latinos do the exact same thing. We need to be making the same amount of money as blacks and whites. And it's going to continue to the point that the standard no longer exists. There is no average. And it's like, once you do that, you end up with nothing. You end up with a degraded nothing. And it's a bad game. It's a really bad game.
I would argue that feminism is actually most damaging to women. Because if you look, so there was a feminist out in Australia who had the decency, at least to be honest, which was that she said that the problem with the wage gap is not men, the problem is women. Because women keep making choices that they don't want to go to work. So she said we should push legislation that makes it illegal for women to stay at home. Like she's saying, we were
talking about this earlier, Rachel Rosemary.
Right. Women can't be allowed to make their own choices. And this is something Jordan Peterson hits a lot. Is constantly saying, if you let people make their own choices, they're not going to neatly categorize themselves as equal. Because that's what they say. Only 7% of women are like the heads CEOs of giant companies.
Right.
How many women want to be? It's the same thing with it's like with hockey, because hockey is always a good example to me, is that hockey is almost completely white. Not because they're keeping blacks out, because when's the last time you met a black guy that wants to play hockey?
Well, there was that one guy on Twitter. There was a black guy on Twitter who, like, I guess had just discovered hockey. And he was flipping out because of it. He's like, "White people have been hiding hockey from us, guys. This isn't cool, man."
Okay, let me rephrase that. How many black guys do you know that want to play hockey that are actually good at it? Okay, there you go. Once you add that extra qualifier, the answer is pretty much none.
Competency matters. It's like, it's not just whether or not you like it, it's whether or not you can actually do it. Yeah, totally.
Right, it doesn't help if you suck at it. And so the thing is, it's like, that's what I was saying. It's just like, okay, but that's just it. I was watching the show Parks and Recreation. You ever watch that show? It's actually quite funny. I like the show, but there was one episode where I forget what's her name, Leslie Knope, where she's trying to get women into all these fields, and one of them was like sanitation. They're trying to collect garbage. But I asked myself, how many women want to go into sanitation? Like they say, well, we don't have 50% of women. How many women want to go into sanitation? Again, the only way you get equal women is if you tell women you don't get a choice. You have to go into sanitation. But that's what feminism is all about. It's saying we don't want you to make a choice. We only want women to be free so long as they decide what we want them to. So.
And we're not saying they can't. It's like if a woman wants to work 60 to 70 hours a week and have 3 kids and it's like and can do it successfully, do it.
Without committing suicide.
Bad at it. Don't make us feel bad for you not being able to fulfill everything you want. You have to pick and choose. If your competency is not that high, you have to pick.
I have to laugh a little bit. If you really want to do that, considering the fact that a lot of guys that do that also happen to be in the same demographic of guys that tend to commit suicide. So you tell me if you want to do it. It's up to you.
So my wife stays at home with our 2 little girls. And yeah, she's like, she's her whole mindset now is like, yeah, I don't understand how women would want to work and have kids. Right. I can do one or the other. I don't want to do both. If I have a choice, I kind of want to work right now because I need to get away from these kids.
Well, it's like, and there's also a record number of women running for political office. And everyone is saying how wonderful and great this is. And I'm like, what if they perform badly? What if they govern badly? That doesn't make me look good.
Right. What if they're Hillary Clinton?
Why does do a terrible job and some of those cities end up in flames? That does not make me look like a competent woman. So it's like I'm not okay with that.
Well, wasn't that a trend? I don't know if it was in 2016 or 2017, but it seemed like every 5 seconds some liberal was posting on Twitter like, we need to vote for more women, we need to vote for more Latinos, we need to vote for more gays, we need to vote for more, and it's like, okay,
why?
I'm not any of these things, so why would I vote for if I'm going to adhere to some superficial measure, like skin tone or sexual preference, why would I vote for someone who in no way, shape, or form represents me?
Right.
Like, that makes no sense. If we're going to play identity politics, guess what? I'm going to vote for the guy that looks like me.
And it's exactly that, because remember that
white and ruggedly handsome.
Who was that one woman? Did she win like a sheriff's position? Who's like a Latino gay woman? Or lesbian?
No. I think she's running. Oh yeah. She's running in Texas against. Is it Greg Abbott? Is that his name?
I don't know.
The point is, governor of Texas.
The point is,
some guy is like, vote for the gay, the
gay Latino lesbian.
It's like she has a name, right?
Right. That was the point. Is I was like, I haven't gone looking, but just based on the articles that have been put out about her, not one of them has mentioned her actual name. Like, it's just, she's these check boxes. Vote for her. It's like, who is she? I don't know, but you should vote for her anyway.
Well, we have a confession to make. We did invite Rosemary on because it is her birthday. Well, it was her birthday last week.
That's the only reason, I'd like to think.
Well, also she's a woman. We had our quota for the month. So.
Oh, right. Of course,
we had our Muslim last week. We had our. I don't even remember who we had 2 weeks ago. I'm really bad at this.
We had a white guy, and he's Christian. Apparently, that's the thing. Privilege apparently can't be just weighted down to white male. Apparently, it's white male, Christian, cisgender, straight, right-handed.
I want to, if you're going to make the case that Christianity is just a bunch of fairy tales or has no redeeming social value, right? Which is what the left tries to do.
Yeah.
Why would you accuse Christians of having privilege? That kind of implies that, hey, if you adhere to these sets of beliefs, it will elevate your social status somehow.
Apparently, it can't be that.
But by the way, there is no redeeming social value. It's all Bronze Age, supernatural, superstitious, mumbo jumbo. It's silly. In this day and age, there's no benefit to being Christian except for the privilege.
Except for everything.
except for the whole privilege part. That's
Which, by the way,
I can't wait till the left starts telling me about my Mormon privilege. Like, that's going to be awesome.
I have to assume, Rosemary, that you're white, and again, I'm not even going to bother to consider to ask you whether you are. I'm just going to say you are. It was like, even though.
Well, technically, I am white, even though about a third of my heritage is Jewish. But on this side, it's like from here on out, it's like my religion is Christian, but half of my heritage, about some of my heritage is Jewish. So it's a mixed bag of nuts. So hey,
fruits and nuts.
I was gonna say, but not. Well, I think it's important to understand also the damage that feminism does, because one of the things that it does. I was watching a video from Karen Strawn. I don't know how to pronounce that. Strawn, I think it is. Yeah, and she was talking about. She was kind of giving like a light correction to something that Jordan Peterson said, because I know she's a fan of Jordan Peterson, but she was just saying, okay, here's a point where I think you've misunderstood. She was actually kind of giving a defense of MGTOW, which I thought was actually amazing, because that's the first time I've heard that, but especially from a woman, no less. But she was explaining just more that MGTOW is not necessarily that, they hate all women, which is weird because I've heard some that do. But
you're from
not all.
Right. Well, I assume not. I obviously there are different kinds, but a lot of the ones I've heard actually really seem to hate women, like, broadly.
Usually the loudest ones are the ones you hear the most. That's true across political lines anywhere.
Fair enough.
I feel personally attacked right now.
Wait, what?
I said I feel personally attacked right now, talking about loud people.
What? Oh, dear God. You'll be fine. It's okay. I can be loud when I want to be. But the damage is that one of the things that I find that feminism hates is family. They hate the idea of family. So again, as somebody who has dealt with the family court system, and you wouldn't believe some of the things I've heard, because like I know a congressman in the area who's been working on legislation to try to get shared parenting in. The absolute venom that you get in response to that is actually quite unbelievable, because there's no shyness about trying to claim that that men are just predators, they're abusers of children, abusers of women, and that they refuse to see them any other way. I wish the link was still up so you could see the video of what I was talking about. I do have it, but like because I spoke at one of these hearings for it. But it's amazing because it damages the ability of men to be fathers. It hates motherhood already. It hates motherhood. It hates fatherhood. It seems to hate children. Again, the abortion movement largely is populated with feminists.
Now, Rosemary, you had some interesting thoughts on the whole family aspect of feminism and what that means. Do you think that ties in any way to what John's talking about?
Well, one of the comments that I had made before we went on air is it's a completely anecdotal story, but I have heard women say that it's somehow morally, how it's somewhat immoral to not to have children of your own and not even think about adopting a child in need. And that's being said by so-called feminist women that don't have children at all. And I'm like,
I guess they figure they get around it by not having kids of their own.
They think that acknowledging the problem absolves them, and it's like that doesn't work because it's ideologically inconsistent. It's like there's so much cognitive dissonance going on that my head might explode. So, but yeah, that it is a definite thing where I feel like feminism looks at motherhood as a hindrance,
right,
instead of something that actually strengthens the ideal woman. And
that was something kind of something we observed this last Mother's Day. It seemed like Let's celebrate motherhood by celebrating women who aren't mothers. It's like,
even worse. We're going to
What?
celebrate motherhood by celebrating abortion.
Right, exactly.
That was gross.
And you know what?
Yeah.
Bring up abortion. Apparently, not many people that, because again, I get my follower count is so flat on Twitter. But anyway,
that was a subtle, like, follow this guy at
Yeah,
Tomoe
well,
Hirioku. Maybe you changed your fucking handle so that it wasn't so hard to spell.
Well, you know what?
You need to change it to not gay John.
Yeah, that I'm not going to do. But the thing is that I had a. So there's this. I assume it's a woman that I've been arguing with probably the better part of the last 4 days over the topic of abortion, and also on the topic of how do you determine whether a child in the womb is a child. And after 4 days, she finally just admitted what I've heard before from a lot of feminists, which is that she actually believes there is no such thing as a child in the womb. A child is not a child until it's born. Or at least until it's disconnected from the mother, which arguably could mean until the umbilical cord is cut. So as long as it's not cut, you could still kill that child outside the womb too. But, but she apparently draws a huge moral difference between a child 5 minutes before it's born and 5 minutes after.
It's like up until actual birth, that is the Democratic platform. That's the DNC platform, period.
Right.
And it's like, even with
are you saying do you mean that literally, like they've actually codified that and said and memorialized it in their platform, or are you saying like ipso facto?
No, it is on their website through the DNC platform. Up until birth, you can abort. That's their platform. That's
right. Because they believe honestly that
was it the magic vagina dust that makes a fetus
exactly.
Yeah, it's from womb to outside. That somehow is the magic portal to human.
And it's funny is they'll say things like it's not a baby, it's a fetus. I'm like, guys, fetus literally means offspring,
right?
Like as in a baby. Like if you're going to use clinical terms, okay, look, let's use clinical terms, right? But let's use them consistently. It's a fetus before it's born. It's a neonate after it's born. We're never going to talk about babies ever again. All right, let's just avoid the confusion.
Yeah.
And then when you ask a pregnant woman how she's doing, you don't say, how's the baby? You just say, how's the fetus? Or if after the baby's born, you say, how's your neonate? Oh, he's such a cute neonate. He's a good chicken.
I think you're like, what is it? 2N organism or something or other? I don't know. I'm literally trying to run over to Twitter to see this because like some of the stuff she says, you'd have to like to see it to believe it. It's absolutely hilarious. Yeah. Where it's like you actually expect a sane person to believe this stuff. That
nobody ever claimed feminists were sane. I don't think we want to go that far.
Well, true. Yeah, but it's like even if you're going to compare like the United States to Europe stuff is way more restrictive. You have to wait 48 to 72 hours. It can't be during a second trimester. And it's like, and you have to go through a full psych and physical examination before you get it done.
Well, yeah, somebody was trying to argue on Twitter earlier today how like America is more restrictive than abortion than European nations. And somebody else pointed out like, no, like in the list, I can't remember the countries they listed, but it was there was a couple of European countries where the cutoff period of fetal development was like 10 and 14 weeks. And the person trying to argue that Europe was less strict than America was like, well, yeah, sure, they've got those bans at 10 or 14 weeks, but I guarantee you Texas has like way stricter laws. It's like, I don't think they do, bud.
No, and I'll even take it a step further because I wouldn't outlaw it simply because it is a medical procedure, and I would want a doctor to have to sign off on it. And
as long as it's not Dr. Gosnell.
Extremely restrictive for it to happen. But I still think any type of abortion or dilation and extraction is the killing of a human life. Human life starts at conception from period.
Right.
And for someone to say, well, at 20 weeks they can't feel any pain. I'm like, okay. If pain is your standard of not causing someone bodily harm, I want to know how you feel about CEPA patients and people who are in stage 4 coma because they feel either less pain or no pain at all.
Or anyone in surgery, for that matter. If they've been given a general anesthetic, you don't feel pain, so technically I should be able to kill you. Okay, and just for the record, now that I'm finding this finally, this is an exact quote from the woman I've been arguing with. I assume it's a woman. By definition, there is no such thing as a child in the womb. Those are her words exactly. Exactly that. That there is no such thing as a child in the womb. So according to her, if it's in the womb at any stage, at any point in time, it's not a child, and therefore, so apparently the magic happens in the birth canal, which I gather she believes is a mystical portal to the unknown, where there are no human beings. So that's apparently how that works.
Yeah.
It's
I had somebody try to argue with me earlier today, and I didn't have any patience for him because he was trying to claim, like, I'm a chemical engineering student. I know STEM, I know science. I'm smarter than you guys. Yeah, I'm a fucking mechanical engineer, and I actually graduated, so fuck off.
Yeah, but it's even worse when people bring religion into it. I don't like when liberal Christians want to bring up like Thomas Aquinas. I'm like, science has advanced since then. And then you have the Jewish community that likes to bring up the Talmud, saying that, well, up until 40 days, the child doesn't have a spiritual identity of some sort, a transference of a soul. And I'm like, I can guarantee you that any rabbi who is conservative and orthodox will tell you that science has advanced since then, right? And that no longer applies.
You bring up a really good point, because I love it when religion gets involved, because it shows how any cutoff date beyond conception is completely fucking philosophical and arbitrary. There is no basis whatsoever in science. It's whether you're secular, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, whatever. If you say, well, we can kill a fetus at this point, but not at this point, that's arbitrary. There is no basis for it. And this was the guy that I mentioned earlier, the chemical engineering student that was trying to like argue with us. First of all, he got his fetal development wrong, because he was saying that brain activity doesn't happen until like 32 weeks. And voluntary movement happens at 14 to 18 weeks. You need to have a functioning central nervous system in order for voluntary movement. And then he's like, you can have reflexes. That doesn't mean you have a functioning brain. I'm like, okay.
It's like, you literally need
reflexes are not voluntary, you dumb fuck. It's like...
Well, and not only that, but that's just it. And that's the other thing. And this is where I guess it becomes a philosophical argument. Is in my mind, none of that matters. I don't care whether it has reflexes, whether the brain is developed. The point is it is developed. That means, from a moral standpoint, a human being is at the point of conception. It is the only non-arbitrary line to draw. And yes, I know the woman I was arguing with would argue it's literally the most arbitrary line in the world, which is incredibly stupid from any viewpoint. But because she's like, well, there are a bunch of other...
Let's suppose for the sake that it is arbitrary. You would have to suppose then that any point is arbitrary.
Right, and that's basically...
From that point, I would say, okay, let's pick the point that's the least arbitrary.
Well, she was arguing that... Actually, she argued the opposite of me, saying that essentially conception apparently is somehow an arbitrary point. Because, okay, this is a new one, because honestly I had not heard this before, that arguing that life begins at conception is the same as believing in spontaneous generation, which I thought was unbelievably weird. Because she's basically implying that we don't understand how, the birds and the bees, that the sperm and the egg make life, that it doesn't just pop out of nothing. Apparently, we're supposed to believe that if you believe that life begins at conception, well, you must believe that life just comes out of nowhere. And it's like, no, we understand
that's not how that works.
That sperm and egg come together and make a living thing. We understand that the material before that was biological and technically alive in a sense, but it's a separate life. Once those two come together, there's unique genetic material that it's like talking to a frigging wall. No matter what you say, what she wants to tell you is that, no, a baby's a parasite or whatever nonsense. It's just a clump of cells. And until I say that it's a baby, it's not a baby. And apparently in her mind, only when the baby's born. Viability is apparently a line to determine that, which is weird because viability differs from place to place and time to time. So I would assume that means she thinks that babies now are more human than they were 50 years ago. I guess is how that works, because apparently that's totally not arbitrary according to her. That's quite amazing. It's not arbitrary until you understand the definition of the word arbitrary, at which point it literally is the definition of arbitrary. And I really
we're going to see how many times we can say arbitrary in 5 minutes
right?
of the show.
Exactly.
Tonight.
Well,
that's feminism in a nutshell, I think. That's like everything they do, and Rosemary and I were talking about this earlier today. Like, the whole feminist movement is one of shifting the goalpost, because it's not about actually helping women.
Right.
Like, that's the last thing they care about. The last thing feminists actually care about is helping women.
Right.
It's about, you know, oppressor and oppressed. It's about redistributing wealth, power, whatever.
Right.
So yeah, it's just, the whole thing seems kind of silly. I do love the conniptions that they had over Jordan Peterson's enforced monogamy comment.
That was.
Did you see that, Rosemary?
Oh, I did.
Now, okay, I'm going to tell you what I thought about that, but I want to hear. When you hear him say enforced monogamy without any explanation whatsoever, right? He explained it, or he clarified later, right? But what were your thoughts? Like, when he said that, you hear the word enforced monogamy in the context of what he was talking about. Like, how did you interpret that?
To me, that is no different than saying enforced nuclear family.
Right.
Simply because I mean, it's like you already have government programs that help you if you have dependents in the home, and tax deductions for when you're married.
Right.
For me, that's no different.
Right.
No different.
Right. That's the way I understood it. And there was this really good article I read years and years and years ago by Orson Scott Card about gay marriage. Actually, he tied gay. This is back when gay marriage was still like a big debate. I think it was like 2004. And he ties gay marriage to the family, and he talks about the kind of the biological drives that men and women have. And men have what he calls a broadcast strategy to reproduction, which is a fancy way of saying we'll fuck anything that moves. And we don't care like what the consequences are. Biologically speaking, I understand that civilized men do care and that good men do care.
No. If you're saying if in actuation what you said actually happened, it would look like the Congo in the United States. That is not happening.
The bonobo chimps, right? You know, in high school.
On college campuses, absolutely not happening. But
right.
Anyway.
And that's the biological drive, right? That's the urge. Now, civilized men suppress those urges, direct them, channel them, what have you. That's where culture comes into play, society comes into play, right? Which is the argument that both Peterson and Card were making. Card goes on to say, and women have almost the exact opposite biological drive. Women need to settle down. They want monogamy. And the reason why is because once they get knocked up, they're vulnerable. And then after they have the baby, they're still vulnerable because now they got to take care of this child and themselves. So they need a man who's going to stick around,
right,
and care for them. And also, it's interesting because Orson Scott Card's Mormon too. He makes the case against polygamy and why polygamy societies are also biologically or evolutionary bad, because they create males with too many stakes, or too many males with no stake in society. Right. Which is kind of ties to what Jordan Peterson was talking about. Like you have this society, and what do we have? We have a hookup culture that feminists love. We have an abortion culture that feminists love. Like everything feminists do to liberate women, that's the exact opposite. Like it creates men it creates too many men with zero stake in society. Right. And what do men with zero stake in society do? They pursue their natural urges. Yep. Because they have zero stake. And now you see that with like these incel movements and these incel killers. It's like, okay, these are examples of men who have zero stake in society. They have nothing going for them in terms of mating, which is what Jordan Peterson was talking about, right?
That's why marriage is so, yeah.
Right. So if we would make people focus when I heard enforced monogamy, I wouldn't think like, okay, we're gonna write a law and it's gonna say that for every guy he gets at least one woman. No like wonder. that wasn't what we were going for. It was like, no, we needed, I was thinking more like, okay, take away no fault divorce and focus on marriage, and society needs to get rid of the hookup culture and get rid of the abortion culture and there actually needs to be a shift back to valuing family. And look, we'll tolerate the exceptions, right? The deviants, the deviations from the norm, the people that don't want a family. Fine, okay, you can be a part of our society, but we're not going to embrace your lifestyle as something that upholds society or as a pillar of society. We'll tolerate you. We'll put up with you.
And honestly, one thing you brought up earlier that I think is worth really actually delving into, because it's a hard question to answer. What is the point of feminism? Like, if you really ask feminists, I don't think feminists really understand what the goal is. Like, what is the society that they'd see that would tell them, yes, feminism's work is done. We have achieved what they want. Because if I took their rhetoric straight forward, it would be a world with no men, where women basically had no choices whatsoever in what they decided to do with their lives. I don't really know what else feminism puts forward that we're supposed to believe is their goal. And then they put that forward like that's a good thing. So I'm not really sure exactly what we're supposed to believe. Because when you tell them, well, feminism hates men, they're like, that's not true. Feminism doesn't hate men. That's literally every word you speak. I'm not sure why I'm supposed to believe that feminism doesn't hate men. Very straightforward that it does. It hates motherhood. It hates parenthood. Again, this is true from its actions. What are we supposed to believe that feminism's goal is? I don't think most feminists could answer that question.
No, and they can't. It's like I will give some feminists that are at the bottom of the expression poll that it's like they call themselves Marxists, but they actually have no idea what they are. They may have experienced one or two types of interactions with trauma that caused them to actually be a victim to something, and somehow they think that their experience is widespread because it hurt them so badly. And I get it. That was horrible. That happened to you. I'm not saying that some men are not abusers, that there isn't some men that are sexist. But it's like your experience is individual to you. Don't project your pain on an entire society thinking that you're going to make a difference and make yourself feel better. That doesn't work for anybody, and it makes you actually feel worse. It doesn't.
And to paraphrase a quote that I heard once, and I love the quote, but to paraphrase it, it would be something along the lines of, are there individual sexists? Yes, but not all of them are men. In fact, I'm not even convinced most of them are men. It was, for the record, that was about white people. That was the same thing. It's like, are there individual racists? Yes. Are they all white? No. In fact, I'm not even convinced most of them are. And I'm not. And the thing is,
you can't be racist if you're not white. And
yes, apparently we've invented a new term. It's now colorist, apparently.
You have to, you have to have power, and women and minorities don't have power. When did that become popular?
I guess since MTV stopped doing music. Apparently that seems to be their thing now, is talking about racism. And basically just being incompetent at it while they're at it.
Is MTV still a thing? I didn't know they still existed.
At this point, I'm no longer sure what MTV is there even around for, because all I ever hear about MTV is dumb YouTube videos about race issues. That's literally all they do anymore. Like, I'm not convinced they do anything else. If they do, I don't know what it is. Well, yeah, I don't watch TV, so I don't know what MTV actually has on TV, because I don't watch cable anything. So no, I don't know.
And it's like in that type of kind of going in the line of that. I mean, it's like even with the Me Too movement,
right?
I'm just like, but all that they're asking for is that they are believed when they say something.
Like, anything.
Which that worked out really well for Black people in Jim Crow South, right?
Exactly. Yeah, worked out real well.
He raped me. Get a rope.
Just ask Emmett Till. Anyway, keep going.
they don't. It's like if they are victimized, they don't want to be. They don't want to have their name connected to the person that victimized them. It's like I understand that sucks, but at the same time, you are making it very easy for another woman, to be hurt just as badly as you were. And the other problem that I have with the Me Too movement is that so many men are being accused of things that they did not do. And I am not okay with an innocent man either being put on some list or being thrown in jail for something that he had absolutely nothing to do with. And
worse,
it's like,
I would say even worse. You have situations where you have men who did do it, but it was like 20 years ago.
Right.
And so now it's like, why are you bringing this up now?
and
so it diminishes the act. Like it actually makes it so when you realize that it did happen, you're like, okay, well, there's nothing we can do about it now. It was 20 years ago.
If the guy did it and he didn't get his comeuppance till 20 years later, he's getting his comeuppance 20 years later. But I want at least some type of definitive proof that shows at least a pattern of behavior that does that. I do not want to send an innocent man to jail.
Right. No, you're right. And this is where the feminist movement shows its Marxist hand. Because remember, I know there was one that was prominent, but there were lots of feminists basically saying, we don't care if innocent men go to jail because men have it coming. Because they did all this stuff to women, and now men have it coming. Because again, they don't see.
It's like that trial scene in the Batman movie, the third one.
Right, yeah, the kangaroo.
Just drag them in front of the kangaroo court.
Right, because they're part of the rich. Never mind if that particular rich person did anything, you are part of the rich. Therefore, you would need to be punished as part of that group. And it's the same thing here. As a man, you get to be punished as a man. Never mind whether you did anything specifically, because you are one of them, then you
belong to the patriarchy.
It's like even when it comes to this, from the left, you also hear that we have too many people incarcerated. So it's like, which one do you want? It's either we're going to start putting innocent people in jail for no reason, or we're actually going to fix the justice system. You can't use at the same time. It's another thing where you can't have both.
Have you guys ever seen the movie? What is it called? I think it's called. I don't want to say Rosemary.
Rosemary's Baby.
No, it's not Rosemary's Baby. It's a movie about a town in Florida. The first syllable is Rose. I know that. And it's about it's based on a true story. Actually, I'm gonna have to look it up now. It's based on a true story, and it's about a lynch mob that goes out of control, and it basically purges this white town, purges this black town. And the whole thing starts, but the whole catalyst is this woman, this white woman who's a bit of a whore, has sex with a drifter, a white drifter who's coming through town, and the white drifter beats the crap out of her for some weird reason. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen this movie. So he beats her up, and she's married. She can't tell her community, because this is in the early 1900s, and she can't tell people, I got beat up by the guy that
I had consensual sex.
That's a consensual sex with, right? So she says she gets raped. She got raped by a black drifter, and it just so happened that there was another drifter who was black. He was a soldier coming back from World War I or World War II, and he was looking to buy a plot of land in that area. And so he gets blamed for it. Well, the black community knows the black neighborhood or township knows that he had nothing to do with it. So they're all trying to protect this guy, and the white town is trying to get him and lynch him. And it's a very poignant movie. But every time I hear the left talk about we should believe all women, I always think to that one scene.
Right.
Where the white blonde chick goes, "Hey, raped me!" And I'm like, yeah, this is not going to end well.
Right, and that's the thing is that, again, we've got plenty of examples of why you can't believe everything. Now, again, actually, let me tie this to something. Okay, so in my time dealing with not just the family courts, but with the process of trying to get legislation for shared parenting passed, I ran across one of the things that the feminists who are against the Shared Parenting Act have pushed for. Ideally, what they want is complete removal of a standard.
Rosewood, that's what it's called. Sorry.
Okay. But it's complete removal of a standard of proof for domestic assault, for domestic violence. Now, they couldn't get that, obviously, because they wanted to basically say, but they have said why they want that. And their entire thing is, and like I said, when hearing it, I was like, okay, this sounds like you just watched too many Lifetime movies, where they honestly believe the guy who beats women is so crafty that you'd never find evidence. So they said, you can't ask for evidence or proof. You have to just take her word for it, because that's the only way you'll ever catch the guy. Even though, obviously, that's not true. But the thing is that's that same mindset, is the same idea that says you have to believe everything. And I think their usual argument for why they say that is because they assume that the guy will just hide all the evidence. But there's no way to prove that he did anything. So the only possible way to catch a guy who's abusive to a woman or who rapes someone is if you just take her word for it. You have to. You know, that's what they usually try to argue, is that, you know, you have to, you just have to take her word for it, because otherwise you'll never catch them. And this is provably false, because actually men who do this usually have a bad record in other areas. They have violent crime record in other areas. But and not only that, but that's tied to the fact that we've seen major cases where women were lying about this, and yet still feminists claim, yeah, but that rarely ever happens. Women never lie about these sorts of things. Just because you've seen common cases doesn't mean that should happen. Right.
I think there was actually a study back in, I think it was 2005, where I think you can find it on the U.S. National Library of Medicine, where women are twice as likely to commit domestic violence than men are.
Right. Oh, certain types. Yeah, I was going to say, because
certain types.
Really?
Yeah. Unprovoked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
There's certain types, because I was going to say that physical abuse, like beating someone up, that's more of men's thing. But verbal and psychological abuse, that's like mostly women. That's mostly women right there. If you take, especially psychological abuse, that's women, like almost heavily skewed in their favor. So it depends on the type. But if you take domestic violence
play to your
whole,
strengths, I guess.
Right, exactly.
I'm going to hell for that joke.
How to mess with you, man. Exactly how to mess with you.
Right. Well, that's the thing, is that makes perfect sense. But the thing is also, because if you take domestic violence as a whole, all of it, it's actually about 50-50. It's about equal between men and women. But if you take certain types, yes, some skew heavily towards men, some skew heavily towards women. And yes, psychological abuse is like, I think it's like 3/4 of the cases are women. And like most of the cases for physical abuse are usually men.
But they might, I mean, the feminists at that point might just argue, say, well, physical abuse is actually life-threatening, or psychological abuse just hurts your feelings.
I don't know. The suicide rate among middle-aged white men is pretty high.
So, when you have, I think 63% men are more likely to commit suicide. I'm like, I'm sorry.
It's because we have to deal with women, okay?
Well, I was gonna say having to deal with the family courts. I was gonna say the offsetting to having to deal with women is that you can have sex with them, so it kind of works out. But the thing is just that
don't fuck crazy, John.
Yeah, I already been there. I already messed that.
And yet you did not learn your lesson, so I'm.
It took a while. You know what? It took a while.
Once burned, twice shy did not sink in at any point with you, my friend.
It did eventually. It took a little. Oh dear God!
I'm sorry.
Anyway,
not gay, John, because that you earned that today.
Yes, by the way,
I don't speak Chinaman, okay?
Sorry, Rosemary. Please forgive the random Japanese. I do speak a little of it, but.
I sing in French for fun, so there you go.
See, there you go. You got to break out different languages.
We should just get you guys like really, really drunk.
Oh God!
And then I'll start speaking in Spanish just for shits and giggles, and then John can speak in Japanese, and you can speak in French, and everyone just be like,
none of us will understand each other.
What the fuck is going on with this show?
I'll understand like maybe like 3 out of every 50 words of Spanish.
Now, Rosemary, have you had any what's your favorite online altercation with with angry feminists?
Oh,
no. Any of my the only big altercation I had on Twitter on social media was on Instagram when I reposted something from Michael Knowles talking about how the alt-right is basically no different than far left, and
which is true.
yeah, and for the first time in my life, I got called a kike. That
Oh, God.
Wow!
yeah, that's the entirety of my my
Ooh.
I can't remember. Now the fun part will be to see if
I think we're not monetized.
if YouTube. Yeah, I was gonna say, but I want to see if like YouTube flags it now, because I've noticed like all the other ones, like they still say N-word, even though I know full well that nobody actually cares whether you say the word, because I don't care. But like but yeah, I think that the reason they still say N-word is because they know that YouTube will like flag the video or something. I don't know, but
I heard that when I heard the first like consonant sound come out, I thought you were going to say something else.
no.
Because I've seen that one. I've seen that one a lot from the.
Well, that's got to be way more common.
No, I think I'm a little too nice to people to be called that.
I don't know if I believe.
I'm sure that's it. I'm sure it's not because they're terrified of you at all.
To be fair, you should be, right? Because I was going to say that you are, maybe to my eye, it's just me. I was going to say that you're at least, you have a slight resemblance to Mike's wife. So I was going to say that, like, so I was like, that may be why there's that.
Like a lighter skinned version. I can see it. I can kind of see it, like a lighter skinned version.
I was just thinking that might be where his inborn fear of you comes from. But
wait, what? That could be it. There's something to that.
Sorry, 50 times. No kidding. But yeah,
I always laugh when people call me a sexist. I'm like, have you met my wife? Like, I could have dominated that woman if I tried.
It's like, I think if you were a sexist, she'd have killed you by now.
Yeah, or something equally unpleasant. I mean, there are worse fates than death.
Remind me to send her more links of Pablo Francisco's talk about Latina girlfriends, because
So my wife's not crazy Latina. She's just.
I know,
like,
but still,
that's Hispanic.
I know. I was literally just throwing it out there just for the sake of stereotypes. But like, yeah, it was the like, if you got a Latina girlfriend, you don't need a big brother. But I was explaining to her that that's where it comes from. That's why when people are like, I don't know, she's Latina, she might be scary. That's why they think it. It's because that's the stereotype Americans have. Because like Gabriel Iglesias said, he's like, if you live in that part of the country, he's like, you can be from wherever you want, but no matter what you say, you're Mexican. And he's like, as opposed to Florida, you're Cuban. He's like, I'm Mexican in the Southwest, but I go to Florida, I'm Cuban. He's like, he's from Honduras. So he's like
and in both cases, that's a step up. So I mean, he really shouldn't complain at all.
Well, at least he's not from El Salvador. Then
I was gonna say, at least he's not Nicaraguan. That would just be.
Yeah, that's it. I was gonna say El Salvador. I know was the origin of MS-13, which
They all have that spark of divinity, right?
Right, exactly. But not children in the womb, mind you. The spark of divinity only exists in everybody, especially people that Trump hates, but not in children in the womb. Of course, there is no spark of divinity whatsoever there. That is not to be believed. And you're a crazy religious person if you believe there's a spark of divinity.
I really cannot believe she says things like that unironically.
I love
she says it with a straight face.
Oh yeah,
and like almost like she doesn't expect to be called on it. Like it's really bizarre to me.
Pelosi is certifiably a crazy person.
What I'm laughing at is I'm just seeing these comments about Trump's comments on MS-13 as just a pile of sandbags in front of the so-called blue wave. I think by the time the elections get here, it'll be like more the blue slight tide increase, maybe. I was like.
I don't know. I think we have a really good shot at keeping. I think we have a really good shot at keeping the House. I think it's going to be really tight, but I think we're going to keep the Senate. But
well, I was reading something that actually suggested that the latest shenanigans by the left have kind of killed whatever momentum they thought they had.
Well, yeah,
because Well, it wasn't just the MS-13 stuff. It wasn't just the MS-13 stuff. You know, the advantage that the left had was right. They had was in the special elections. But we're not having special elections.
Right.
Right. And the reason why we had these special elections was because, you know, we had areas where the GOP had to get rid of these guys, or they dropped out, and so like this,
or
that
they
was
were
the
pulled
event.
or they were pulled into the cabinet. So like they're pulled into administration citizens. And so
Right. Right. But the more the left acts out, which Rosemary, you have Publix where you live?
Have what?
Publix, the supermarket?
Yeah, there's one near me.
Okay. Oh. I love Publix. That's one of the things I miss about like
I've never seen one in my life.
Dude, Publix is the best thing ever.
Well, apparently now we have whiny teenagers laying on the ground pretending they're dead and probably smell like they do.
I would have loved to have been in one of those supermarkets.
I just run them over with a shopping cart.
The thing is, my 3-year-old loves to help us push the cart, and usually I help her steer so she doesn't like run into people. I'm just gonna be like, no, honey, just run them over. Today is the day you get your shopping cart driver's license. Go forth, have fun.
Like, oh my God, you ran over a teenager. I didn't see anything. What the hell are you talking about? I didn't see anything. It was like, there's a teenager? All I thought it was a speed bump. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, we don't have speed bumps, which is why I thought it was so weird. I was like, you know.
Now, Rosemary, you contribute for Red Alert?
I do, yes.
Is that redalert.com or what's the website?
Politics, Red Alert Politics is part of the Washington Examiner.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you guys have enjoyed the show tonight, make sure you check out Rosemary's columns at Red Alert Politics. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
And you can also follow her. What's your ad on Twitter?
You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all at RLYNND1.
Yeah. It's a really great fight. She's got a lot of good points. She puts out some really funny stuff too. From time to time. I love following her, so make sure you guys give her a follow. Rosemary, thanks for coming on to the show. We had a good time tonight. We will we'll definitely have you back on. Make sure you guys are sharing and subscribing to the show. Follow John and myself at ornery_opinions. Follow John at Kamui Hideyoku.
You got it. There you
go.
It.
I say it right, fine all the time. I just hate spelling it.
Actually, this is the first time you've gotten it like exactly right. Like the
with the accent and everything? My gringo accent.
Well, because normally you say like, you'll say like Kamuri, and so it's like, no, it's Kamui. Kamui. Yes,
Kamui
it's an old, for the record.
It's spelled like it sounds.
Rosemary, for the record, it's an old pen name. I'm just explaining this because I feel the need to explain it to everybody. But
we're going to change it. I'm going to hack his account, and I'm going to change it to
I'll change it
not gay John.
No, not to that. You will hack nothing. And if you try, then I will put
I've already changed the password. I've already changed the password on the group account, and you can't touch me, cool.
I will put some really bad viruses on your computer. I've got some, you know.
I've already got porn on my computer. It's already done. My computer's already screwed up.
But not horse porn. Anyway.
That you know of. Anyway. Thanks again, Rosemary, for coming onto the show. We hope to have you back on again. And you guys have a great Memorial weekend. If you bump into a vet, make sure you thank him for his service, or her service. We definitely want to show gratitude to their hard work and sacrifice. You guys have a great weekend and have a great night.